Hello Eagles! In this video, we will give a brief overview of our first SEL Snack and Learn. We will be offering 6 Snack and Learns focused on SEL this year. To begin, here is a brief introduction to social emotional learning.
There's a lot of talk these days about SEL, social emotional learning. But what exactly is it? Social emotional learning is the process of learning social and emotional skills, and it's just as important as learning reading or math. This learning process is most effective when it begins early and continues through high school. Social emotional skills are essential for success in school, work, and life. With SEL, students learn to manage their own emotions and behaviors, have empathy and show care and concern for others, solve problems effectively, make responsible decisions, and maintain healthy relationships. Students learn to recognize what's happening inside them and to be aware of their emotions, which helps them deal with strong emotions and impulsive behaviors. It helps them stop, take a breath, and think about a situation before acting. Students learn to identify others' emotions and perspectives, which helps them empathize and show compassion, no matter who they are or what their background is. It's not difficult to imagine how this is important in the classroom and in life. Students learn to solve problems in peaceful ways and communicate assertively about what they need or want. This helps them get along with other students and get the help they need from adults. When students learn to make responsible decisions about their lives and their future, things can turn out better. Research shows social emotional learning makes a difference. Students who participate in SEL do better academically, have improved attitudes and behaviors, and act in delinquent or disruptive ways less often. In the United States, students with strong social-emotional competence are twice as likely to earn a college degree and nearly 50% more likely to graduate from high school and have a full-time job by age 25. Just as important, students who are socially and emotionally competent have more friends. This means they're more likely to feel connected to school and do well, and less likely to be left out or bullied. Simply put, by participating in social emotional learning, students learn the skills to succeed in every facet of school and the rest of their lives.
So as you saw in the video, social emotional learning is a lot. And it's worth noting that this isn't something that's just going to happen overnight. There are schools and there are districts that are rolling out social emotional learning in 5 years, right? Focusing on one area each year. This isn't something that we're going to learn one day and then all of a sudden everyone is going to be socially and emotionally competent the next. So as a building, we have pretty much been focusing on sense of belonging in terms of social emotional learning. And that makes sense because we have the data that shows us that 46% of our students are reporting that they feel like they belong, which indicates that 54% do not feel like they belong. So in an effort to address this, we have implemented classroom connections, an effort for every teacher to connect with every student on something that is non-academic. We've also implemented Be an Eagle Days, where students are celebrated really just for being them. From the tea room, we've tried to support this sense of belonging growth by suggesting that students learn each other's names, by suggesting that adults use the students' names, by learning something non-academic about each of your students, or establishing a classroom tradition or mantra. We've dug a little bit deeper and showed you how to use the pre-made Pear Deck SEL templates that are super helpful in getting to know your students and helping them kind of regulate their social emotional state. And then practice deep breathing, playing music, using calm.com or Headspace. These top three really focus on improving our overall sense of belonging, whereas these bottom three dig a little bit deeper into social emotional learning. But social emotional learning is not just sense of belonging. It is also self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making, and self-management. And then we also know that equity fits in there somewhere, because as educators, we as the adults need to be self-aware and socially aware to ensure that our educational practices are equitable. So self-awareness and social awareness allows us to consider the world and policies and procedures and systems from the viewpoint of someone else, because a system or a policy might work for us or worked for us when we were students doesn't mean that that policy or procedure works for every single one of our students. But before we are even able to get there, we need to make sure that three things happen, right? So before we are able to take that deeper dive into self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making, and self-management, we need to make sure that we as the adults are happy and healthy. We need to make sure that we have positive and predictable classroom environments and that we have positive student-teacher relationships.
When talking about adult SEL, we know that if a teacher is unable to manage their stress adequately, their instruction will suffer, which then impacts student well-being and achievement. This is something that will be addressed at a Institute Day in January, but this is also really, really important for us to remember in moving forward. We can't take care of our students and our students' needs if we are not taking care of ourselves first. The next main point is that classroom management. We know that we need to have a safe, consistent, caring, firm classroom and classroom procedures. This is integral in making sure that our students know the routines. They know what to expect in our classrooms. If they don't do that, they're going from class to class feeling like they are in chaos. And so we really need to make sure that we are reteaching and reinforcing as needed, that our classroom policies and procedures are consistent, and that they are communicated. They know what these procedures are. They know what to expect every single day or what the routine looks like, on any given Monday. So we also need to make sure that we have high expectations for all of our students, not just some, but every single student that walks in our door. They know that yes, they're going to have to follow these procedures, that these are my expectations, but I'm also expecting them as the student to give me their best, to work their hardest, and that I'm not going to accept anything less than that. And so those expectations are clear. And then follow through. This becomes really difficult, especially as the year goes on and we are getting more tired, and there's so many other things that we have to think about and go through in each class period, but that follow through is so important. If we have high expectations and we have our procedures and we have rules in our classroom, we need to make sure that we are following through with them so that they know that they also have to follow through with those rules and expectations. Attached to this email, we will also have a checklist for successful classroom management. It's really just a tool to help you prepare a lesson, check your environment, and assess student learning, but really it's for you to reflect on the practices and see if there's anything that maybe we can brush up on, or maybe we're doing really, really well, but just that reminder of what is happening in our classroom. And lastly, that positive student-teacher relationships. We've already talked about making sure to check in using all of our students' names, having a clear and consistent teacher language that is, like I said, consistent throughout the building, making sure that we are positively reinforcing the good behaviors that our students are having in our classroom, or instead of just a broad, general, great job, but who is that student and what did they do specifically that earned them that praise? We also talked about the classroom connection and how that opens up the doors for more communication and more relationship building with our students. But lastly, to assume the best in every interaction. We've talked about this quite a few times over the past year and a half, but it is so important to building relationships with our students. We need to assume that when they walk into our class late, that they're not trying to be mean, that they weren't dawdling, that they weren't being disrespectful, but maybe something else happened. And so when they walk in late, instead of saying, "Oh, so glad you could be here," or "Nice of you to show up," maybe we say, "Hey, we're glad you're here today," or we missed you. I'm glad glad you could be here. Or, and then, then you can ask them, is everything okay? Same thing with if they're on their phones, instead of yelling and saying, put your phone away. Like, hey, I noticed that you've been on your phone lately. Is everything okay? Is there anything I can help with? So make sure that we are assuming the very best in all of our students. Also keep in mind that we might be the first adult that they are interacting with on that given day. Many of our students don't have parents that are home when they leave for school or awake. So if they're walking into your classroom in the morning, or they're walking into school late and their first interaction is a negative one, what tone does that set for the rest of the day? So let's try to assume the best in every interaction with our students, but also with other colleagues in the building. So now that we've talked about all of these different prongs, where we've been, where we're going, and what is important to establish before we even can move on, the question is, what can you expect next? So out of the tea room, the things that you can expect next from us is, like we said, a 6-part Snack and Learn series. We are going to dive deep into each of these different competencies. However, we do only have 25 minutes, so this deep dive is definitely not going to hit rock bottom, but we would like to give you at least more of an overview of those 5 different competencies than maybe we've addressed prior. We're hoping to give you activities that will address your social emotional learning and regulation, and then activities that you can use with your students either immediately or scaffold into your curriculum. So overall, we've talked about how we've spent a lot of time in this area of sense of belonging due to the data that we've received. We know that equity is a part of this whole equation, but we also look forward to seeing you as we go through these 5 other competencies that make up SEL. If you have any questions, as always, please come seek us out, and we look forward to seeing you in the tea room.